baby daddy free. That mean I ain't got a nigga baby coming out of me. So I'm ABORTING. On my way to the clinic, I forgot the plan B. Let's go. I got murder on my mind. Let's go. I got murder on my mind. Yeah. I got murder on my mind. Yeah.
Whether it's pro-life leaders or abolitionists, everyone is talking about this letter. It was signed by National Right to Life and more than 70 other pro-life leaders and organizations who say, "Let us be clear. We state unequivocally that we do not support any measure seeking to criminalize or punish women, and we stand firmly opposed to including such penalties in legislation." But why? Why are they opposed to women being subject to the law in the same way everyone else is? They say it's because criminalizing women is antithetical with love and compassion, because they say women are victims of abortion. This letter was addressed to every state lawmaker in America, and apparently, it's had a lot of influence. Rose Mims of Arkansas Right to Life is one of the signers. I asked her about it when we talked. In a May 2022 article that I found on your website, it said that you, along with 70 plus other pro-life leaders and organizations, signed a letter urging legislators to reject any legislation that imposes penalties on women who have abortions. Can you just tell us about that letter, what prompted it, and where Arkansas Right to Life was on that stance?
Yeah, well, we were proud to sign on to that letter, and I've had to defend it because there are others that disagreed and really demanded that we take our name off of it. But women are victims of abortion, whether they claim that for themselves or not. I mean, when an industry preys on you in your worst time of your life, when you're in crisis, and wants money for it, and no kind of resources after the fact. You're having physical problems or you're having emotional problems. You know, that's they don't need to be punished. They're being punished enough. I mean, they've lost their child. And to charge them, to possibly put them in jail, that is just wrong.
And I found this mentality isn't exclusive to signers of that letter.
If abortion is murder, should the woman be charged with that and go to jail?
I believe that those who commit murder, so the abortionists, those who would be assisting in the abortion, could be tried with a crime. And actually, we've written laws at Students for Life Action that do make committing abortion a criminal offense. We do not believe that a woman should go to jail for abortion because sadly for 50 years in our country we have told women that it's not murder and it's not killing, it's simply a removal of meaningless blobs of tissue that don't have any consciousness yet, which we know is false. And so we actually see her very much as a second victim of the abortion industry.
What happens whenever you don't treat it as homicide, when you don't treat it as murder, they do it thinking it must not actually be murder. I think probably their hearts, like just the natural being made in the image of God, having the moral law, they know it's murder, but then they look to the lawmakers and
dude, it's legal, so
is slavery. Up. If anyone is going to be guilty of coercion and sort of guilty of sort of like encouraging the mass murder of abortion, it's all the people writing laws against abortion that don't treat it as murder. Because when the punishment for murder isn't executed swiftly by governing authorities, the hearts of the children of men are quick to do evil.
Yep.
Ecclesiastes 8:11. Solomon, a wise guy.
You know, actions do speak louder than words. If the pro-life movement says it's murder, but the laws they write say women can do it anyway, why does it surprise us that a lot of women think it's not murder? But what I found even more revealing is many women getting abortions today say they know it's murder, but it's still okay.
Yes, I did kill that kid. They were innocent and I did kill them. I'll admit that, but I don't think it was wrong.
If you're ever at an abortion mill, those young ladies know exactly what they're doing.
Virgil Walker is VP of Ministry Relations at G3 Ministries and has spent lots of time ministering outside of abortion clinics.
They don't mince words. They have no problem understanding that they are murdering a child. Many of them celebrate that fact.
You have a guilty conscience.
No, I don't. I'm so proud. I would do an abortion every day if it meant.
Well, then why not look at it?
Baby on your front porch.
Why not look at it, man? that God can save you whose name you just take in vain.
Ask me about my abortion.
You have a guilty conscience,
I
ma'am.
love it. Ask me about it. Abortions are good.
I've witnessed girls, I say, you don't murder your child. No, that's exactly what I'm going to do as they race into an abortion mill.
Ma'am, you have a child and you're going to murder your child.
Yes.
And you, ma'am.
And I'm going to enjoy it.
Ma'am, I got something for you.
Here, I'm going to kill it.
I asked the woman who came out where her baby is. She showed me a picture of an ultrasound and said the baby is gone.
But if women know that abortion is murder, why would they still choose it? Many pro-life leaders seem to think it's a lack of resources.
She wants to parent, and she just needs a little bit of that extra help to get there.
It is the pro-life movement that seeks to evaluate and address her need for economic assistance, education, or maybe an exit strategy from a bad relationship. But if the abortion industry would do this, they would go out of business.
I keep hearing things like this, that if we offered women more resources, things would be different. Women wouldn't choose abortion, and the abortion industry would go out of business.
You know, when I started in this ministry about 15 years ago, I did think that a lot of the mothers were victims who were going inside those abortion clinics.
Christina Harhoff has spent a lot of time doing sidewalk counseling outside of what was one of the busiest abortion clinics in the country.
But what we found is as we were reaching out to these women, they were walking in on their own 2 feet. No one was dragging them in the door. They were often ignoring our sidewalk counsel and our offers of help and hope, offers of baby showers and cribs.
We offer housing, free housing. We offer assistance getting jobs, help with budgeting, help getting childcare, help getting started on insurance, all the different things that are kind of said, if this was provided, then women wouldn't have abortions. Well, it's not the case. You know, in some cases, like I said, 35% of the time, it makes a difference. But for the other ones, honestly, we could tell them, don't do anything and don't worry about anything for the next 9 months. Sit on my couch. I will pay for everything. I will provide for everything. You don't have to do a thing. Just carry your baby. And they would say, no, I just don't want to be pregnant. So it's not a financial thing.
So for the vast majority of women, it's not about the resources. They're just choosing abortion because they want to.
My abortion was the best decision I ever made. It was an act of self-love.
But what if someone were forced?
So I guess how do you determine, how do we know who's a victim and who's not?
Ooh, that's a good question. I would say the mothers in China under one-child policy are a good example of what a second victim might look like. During one-child policy, we had mothers who loved their babies, but they had armed guards come up to their door in the middle of the night and kick that door down, and she was overtaken and forcibly aborted against her will. That is a forced abortion, and that is a true mother victim in that scenario who would be innocent under the law. But that's not typically what we see in the everyday normal abortion scenario in America.
Right. Obviously, most women in America are not being forced to abort like women in China were.
She was 7 months pregnant. She was hooded, held down, injected with labor-inducing drugs. Feng Jianmei was subjected to a forced abortion.
Nobody is saying that's what's happening here, right? Except they are. The Charlotte Lozier Institute was founded in 2011 to be the research and education arm of Susan B. Anthony Pro-Life America. In publishing a study about women feeling pressure to abort, their researchers said, "We tend to think of abortion coercion in countries with oppressive regimes like China. In fact, this shocking hidden epidemic is happening all around us."
It seems like a lot of people say that most or all women are victims in the abortion. Coercion plays a big role into that. What is your thought on that?
Well, I think talking to the pregnancy centers who are seeing women, who are with them, they tell me all the time about the coercion that these women face from other people in their life. Obviously the man in the situation, but it could be other friends and family members as well, in addition to the boyfriend or the partner or the husband or whoever he may be in that situation. So coercion's real in abortion. And many women are choosing abortion oftentimes because of that coercion, whether it be subtle or whether it be more aggressive in that situation. So I certainly think that's a real factor.
Well, a recent study came out that said 66% of women said that someone had coerced them into, or, pressured them into having an abortion. And that same study even had talked to men, and I think it was 40-something percent of the men said yes, they admitted that they played a part in pressuring the woman to have an abortion. Telling them stuff like, I'll leave you, if you don't, or I'll kick you out. If it's your parents, your parents will kick you out. Just negative things that are said to that woman to make her feel that abortion is her only option, and, like I say, not a willing choice. So,
after our interview, Rose sent me a link to the study she mentioned. When I read it, all I could find was one survey question that asked women if they felt pressured by others in their decision to get an abortion. 64% said yes. The study never even used the word coercion, and it didn't ask what kind of pressure they experienced or how strong it was. But when Rose talked about coercion, this is the study she pointed me to. Are pressure and coercion really the same thing?
I spoke to a pro-life leader in one state that said that there was a study done where about 60% of women admitted that they were coerced or there was some type of pressure, and she kind of used that to justify the victim narrative. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I would say, first of all, what do we mean by coercion, right? Do we mean the legal definition, which is forced against your will by someone threatening you with death or serious bodily injury? That's the first question. Studies that I've seen, most of them, it seems like they're trying to make it sound like there's way more victims than there are. If you go look at those studies, what they're doing is lumping together any kind of pressure that women feel to have an abortion, and they're calling that coercion, whether it's financial pressure or just any other kind of, school or anybody else or any outside person who may be in any way pressuring them to do something. But again, that doesn't meet the legal definition of coercion or someone truly being under duress, right? Everyone who commits a crime is under some kind of pressure, some kind of financial pressure or some kind of internal pressure or psychological pressure or what have you. But that doesn't mean that, that's your excuse to commit that crime.
Like if someone truly is pressured or forced, like you were given the example of the bank robber, the getaway car with the gun to their head, are these laws that we would need to develop, or are these laws already exist?
Yeah, these laws are already on the books in every single state, right? That's why an abolition bill, again, we don't have to create all these kind of situational laws, because we already have this entire body of law. We've had homicide laws for, well before this country existed. And we already have a very well-developed body of law that will take care of all of these situations that we all agree, that someone with a gun to their head, they have an excuse.
Now that's interesting. I asked Bradley to send me some examples of the laws he was talking about. I was surprised at how clear they are. For example, Alabama law says it's a defense to prosecution if you are compelled to do something criminal by threat of imminent death or serious injury. South Dakota law says that you cannot be convicted for conduct you engaged in under threat of unlawful force. And apparently every single state has similar laws. But this isn't what the pro-life leaders were talking about. They weren't using the term coercion to just talk about those being forced against their will. They were using it to talk about any kind of pressure.
Research shows that 70% of women have either been coerced or regret or otherwise pressured into an abortion. 70%. The others, we know from research, all women who are in the first trimester are undergoing tremendous hormonal changes that have a severe impact on their decision-making abilities.
What? Did he really just say women can't be held responsible for obeying the law when they're pregnant because of hormones? Okay, moving on. And he said that 70% of women have either been coerced or regret or otherwise pressured into an abortion. Regret, pressure, and actual coercion are three different things, but he combines them all into the term coercion.
25% of all women, the research says all childbearing age women, which means all women are going to go through childbearing age, 25% of them will have an abortion. 70% of them have been coerced.
And it seems like a lot of pro-life leaders are combining categories like this. What is going on?
When they ask the questions, a lot of times they're lumping in, were you forced into abortion, or did you feel any kind of pressure to have an abortion?
Okay.
And they kind of like lump all those together. It's like, well, those are two very different things, right? Like I said, pretty much any criminal who commits a crime feels some kind of pressure, financial or societal or their gang or whatever, but that doesn't mean they're excused from, the consequences of committing the crime.
So if that 70% includes women who feel regret, women who feel any pressure, and women who feel coerced, then how much of that 70% is just coercion?
The most that I've seen in any of those studies, as far as those who are coerced, the highest number I've seen is 10%. That's the highest number I've seen in any of those studies. And even in that one, it was just asking women, did you ever feel coerced? And it doesn't even define what that term means. It certainly doesn't define it in any kind of legal language as being, under threat of death or serious bodily injury. So I would say at the highest side, we're talking 10% of cases. But really, I think it's closer to, a fraction of a percentage.
This is the same study where one of the authors said it revealed a hidden epidemic of coercion in the U.S. similar to forced abortions in China. This makes it sound like 70% of American women are being held down and having their babies aborted against their will. But when I look at the study, I saw what Bradley had said was true. Even with the loosest definition of coercion, only 10% of women who participated in the study identified their own abortions as coerced. When pro-life leaders cite this study to claim that 70% of women are coerced to such a degree that they shouldn't be criminally responsible for their actions, they are combining the 10% of women who said their abortions were coerced, the 14% who said their abortions were unwanted, and the 43% that said their abortions were accepted but inconsistent with their preferences. When you lump those categories together, you get 67%, which they round up to 70. But in reality, the study shows that only 10% of women categorize their own abortions as coerced, even when the study didn't define coercion at all and they could define it as broadly as they wanted to. The more I dig into all this, the more I feel lied to. From what I've seen, instead of women being unwilling victims, the vast majority of women who abort are willing participants.
I chose to have an abortion on my own terms. This gave me the power to control my health care and the opportunity to continue building the life I've always dreamed of.
The face of it all, a young woman who made waves by announcing she had no regrets about her choice and found others were eager to follow suit. Here's ABC's Aditi Roy.
I had an abortion last year. It was an incredibly positive experience for me because I didn't want to become a mother.
Well, what's the oppression? I guess what's oppressing women? And I would say it's not a culture that's oppressing women first. It's not an industry that's oppressing women first. So first, these women are not merely victims. At the root of women's problem that abortion is a symptom of is sin.
Women are not victims of abortion. Women are choosing abortion.
I had an abortion before.
So did you think that it was good? Best decision? Did you do it because someone made you, or did you choose it yourself? You chose it? You knew what you were doing?
I think in the pregnancy center movement, the reaction that has made people say, yes, oh, women are victims, is that they suffer. But we suffer from sin. That is the reality. When we sin, there are consequences, especially when we commit egregious sin. And murdering your child is egregious sin that is going to have those consequences associated. So what we're seeing is the result of a terribly sinful decision, not the result of them being a victim. Now, there are some victims who are actually forced to have abortions, and I think in this post-Roe world that we have, that's actually worsened because now it's so easy for pills to be accessed that people who are traffickers and abusive can order pills very easily for the mother of their child and force them to take it. So I'm sure that that's a reality. So those people do exist, but that is by far not the norm. The norm is that women know what they're doing. They are actively making that choice. And most of them will say, because we ask every woman, are you experiencing any pressure from anyone outside in your decision-making process? And we look for any signs that she might give that she isn't telling us the truth, or any hesitation, anything that might give us insight into there's more to this story than what she's saying. And they will confidently and say, absolutely not. This is my decision. I am making this decision. It's my body. It's my choice. And so that's, we have to counter that narrative.
Have you murdered a baby? Two.
I didn't want a child. That's fine.
And
that was her choice.
And you're proud of that?
What she wanted for her body. My body, my choice.
I remember when I first got licensed in sonography, I got an email from, there's lots of different organizations that send emails all the time, and one of them said, I can't remember what the exact percentage, but it was really high, like 90% of women will choose life if they see their baby on ultrasound. And I was like, what? Are we doing something wrong? Like,
because that's not what you had seen?
Yeah. I was like, well, that's not true. Like, many women do, but the majority, even past 20 weeks, where you can see everything. Like, you can tell it's a baby early on. But when you're at 20 weeks and you can see gender and you can see hands like moving around, touching the face, I've had women at that point still have abortions.
Yeah,
and
see it's a baby.
And they're like, yep. They're even commenting on, wow, look at it moving. And they still go have an abortion. Like, how can you see your child and still be okay with murdering it?
As Christians, we know what the damaging effects of sin, because we're all sinners. And we need the salvation that comes, the forgiveness that comes through Jesus Christ. And we're not going to be free from those damaging effects until we actually repent of that sin. And so we need to recognize that reality. And God forbid that we would give women an excuse to not have her turn to Christ. And that's what we're doing.
Well, she's a victim. Why does she need repentance?
Exactly. That's what we're doing when we say she's a second victim.
What Jenna was saying makes sense. Abortion is the result of a terribly sinful decision, not the result of them being a victim. I had even seen that 42% of women who get abortions each year have already aborted one or more of their children. Many women aren't just aborting once, they are going back repeatedly to kill their babies.
I did it 7 times and I don't mind looking at it. It don't bother me, baby.
When I really looked into it, it seems obvious that the overwhelming majority of women who have abortions are not victims. But some are. So if we pass laws that make abortion illegal for everyone, could victims go to jail?
We're not saying no, every mother must be thrown in jail, period, regardless of what the allegations are, what the circumstances are. No, all we're saying is, what's the justice system that protects born people? We're calling for that same justice system to protect people before they're born. And what does that look like? Well, there is a presumption. Everybody's heard about it. You're presumed innocent until proven guilty, right? So there is a presumption that everyone is a victim and that everyone is innocent, right? That should still continue to apply. And so we do say that, let's presume that everyone is innocent and that everyone is a victim. And then let's require the government to prove beyond a reasonable doubt to a jury of their peers who've been indicted by a jury of their peers before a judge that they have committed this crime. And there's every opportunity then for them to argue duress or I didn't know or what have you. And then there's multiple appellate courts that then review all of that. Governors or boards of paroles or pardons in every state can then review that and even pardon people if they don't think it was a just outcome. So that's the justice system that we already trust, and it's not perfect, right? And there's plenty of improvements that could be made there, but that's the justice system we have protecting our own lives as born people. We're just calling that justice system should be the one that also protects people before they're born.
We're not asking for new law. We're just asking for the law that we have to be applied consistently for every image bearer of God.
The sad fact is that millions of women in this country have already had abortions. Would making it illegal now retroactively send those women to jail?
The accusation that's thrown out anytime you talk about a law of actual equal protection and what that means is criminalization of abortion. The immediate accusation is, you don't care about women who are post-abortive. You just want them all thrown in jail. Right. And it's an absurdity.
Are you pro-life or are you an abortion abolitionist?
The only difference I have with them is they want retroactive prison time for women that had abortions. And I disagree with them.
Okay.
I don't want to misstate their position, but I do believe that's correct.
This is ignorant talk because how laws work, laws do not apply retroactively.
Right.
You cannot get punished for something that was legal when you did it. Mm-hmm. So it's not at all, the accusation that's thrown is just ludicrous, and we should be challenging that at every opportunity to say that is so false, and you need to know that your view of that is completely wrong. The truth is that what that will do is, from the moment that that law goes into effect, that will inform consciences going forward.
I don't want to see any mother end up in prison, right, or end up getting sentenced for aborting their child. I want to see them, first of all, see this law and then repent of any kind of temptation that they've had, or moving toward following through with an abortion. But then I also want to see them, if they're not going to be taught by the law, here's the value of life, then I want them to be deterred by the law that says you should not do this. And then the third function of the law is justice, right? If they're not taught, right, or if they override that, they say, well, I know it's wrong, but I'm going to do it anyway, then they're not deterred by the law. Well, then the third function of the law is, okay, now there's justice. There's justice for the victim. And then what does that do? That also deters other people.
I think the problem that I've been trying to work through, it's like we have this part of our society, women are strong and intelligent and informed, and then you've got pro-life leaders telling us that they're victims.
There's a huge just infantilizing of women. On the one hand, saying, yeah, you're strong and you can do anything. And on the other hand, saying, oh, she's a second victim.
We send women a message that you can. You are capable, you are intelligent.
Women are capable. Women are intelligent. Women are adaptable. Women can do this.
These are desperate women who want help and support, not abortions.
I believe women are lied to and women are victims in the abortion process. And yes, there are exceptions where women really know what's happening.
I was going to say, even
very, very rare. Women are victims. They're lied to.
Wait, which one is it? Are women strong, capable, and intelligent? Or are they too ignorant to know what they're doing and too weak to resist any kind of pressure?
What were you saying?
Oh, she ate it. And when she gets to hell, she's going to the devil.
There is hope for y'all if you look to Christ. We can look to Christ in faith.
To me, this all women are victims thing just seems insulting.
That's right. It infantilizes women. It says, you are too stupid and weak to have agency.
Right.
You're like a child. At the same time, they're trying to say, oh, we love women and we want to lift women up and we want to give them
women are
all
smart
the
and
most
intelligent
important roles.
and strong.
You're good enough, you're smart enough, and people like you, women. And then they'll tell them, oh, but you're a victim of
Right,
of all
doesn't
these
make
things.
sense.
It doesn't make sense. Women should be rejecting it on its face, and a lot of women are.
While pro-life leaders are telling legislators that equal protection for babies is somehow hateful toward women, more and more post-abortive women are telling a different story.
I grew up in a Christian home, loved the Lord, thought abortion was evil, found myself kind of towards the end of high school just hanging out with the wrong crowd and making bad decisions, and ended up pregnant. And many people in my life, I'm not going to name names, but wanted me to have an abortion. And granted, I made my own decision, so I don't want to blame other people for my choices. But I took what I thought would be the easy way out of my situation, even though I knew it was wrong. So I chose to have an abortion. I hate what I chose. I know it was wrong. I'm supposed to love the Lord, and how can He possibly love me now for what I've done? I've done the worst possible thing you can imagine. It's amazing to know that, we're all born sinners. We all make mistakes. We all sin, but Jesus came and covered it all with His blood, and we have hope now. We have, you know, he has atoned for that.
So as a post-abortive mother, would you advocate for, or would you agree with not only making abortion illegal, but criminalizing it?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, I think it should be criminalized. I think that if it had been a criminal act, I would not have had an abortion.
Wow. The law told Casey this was okay and did nothing to stop her. But even in these states that pro-life leaders say are abortion-free, the laws still tell women that it's okay and do nothing to stop them. Casey says if there had been a law against it, she wouldn't have done it. A law would have kept her from murdering her child. Isn't that what we want? In the next episode of Abortion Free,
he didn't know how to answer the question. And you got to realize, I mean, he's been my friend for so many years, and I'm speaking to him like, you don't really believe that, do you? Like, you don't really think abortion should be legal for the woman, do you? And I never got an answer.
If we're saying that this is good because it's going to save some lives, that's what we thought about our law. Well, this is surely going to save some lives in Wisconsin. Well, I don't actually know if any lives are being saved at all, to be honest. But it's a beautiful thing to be able to say, I was wrong.
We need to be repenting that we have not seen these things clearly, and that's certainly true for me. So when I say we need to be repenting, I'm talking about my own life and experience.
God granted me repentance. Because at best, I was an apathetic pro-life pastor. And really at worst, all I was a compromiser.